All right, let me see here. I got a lot of there's a lot of people coming in and out of there, so I'm kind of trying to find. Okay, somebody said about to start a GRC internship very soon. How's the GRC salary average? GRC salary average is pretty good. And so don't take my word for it. Let's go to Google and I'll show you. So it depends on what field you're in, what part of the country or world you happen to be in. It's gonna be a factor in how much money you make. It is a lot of reading. He says, yeah, it's a lot of reading. It absolutely is. But let me just show you the salary range. Let's take if you worked in Virginia and you are a GRC, you are what's called an ISO. You are an ISSO. This is a GRC person who is in the federal US government. And let's say they were in Virginia. So what I'm doing is I said ISO salary range, Virginia. So you got to have a place. You got to have a title in there, and we put salary. Don't take my word for it. This is how much the average ISO makes in Virginia and in the U.S. So there you go, right there. So if you happen to be listening to me, actually, let me show my screen on YouTube. I apologize for that, guys. I know I'm sitting here just chit chatting away and not showing you the screen, but here it is right here. So Virginia, the average annual salary for an information system security officer in ISO is around $118,000, with top earners potentially reaching to $158 per year. Now, keep in mind, Virginia is it's expensive there. So 100,000 is really not a lot in Virginia, to be honest with you, depending on where you live and how you're living and things like that. It's just not that big of a deal, to be honest. I mean, I know that sounds crazy, coming from somebody who had, from a very humble beginnings. 100,000 is a lot. But in Virginia, where rents are not cheap, 100,000 is not the best you can do. So it's talking about salary ranges for U.S. Department of Defense, for all the now. Okay, now let's say you wanted to do GC. Maybe you're like GovTech is a little bit much right now, and they're firing people or whatever. So I want to go a GRC in healthcare. Healthcare. Let's go health. If I could spell healthcare salary, Virginia. We'll stick with Virginia, and you'll see this about the same. It says that in Virginia, the average salary of a GRC, governance risk and compliance analyst in healthcare, is around $114,000. Now, keep in mind, you got to take into account things like how many years a person worked, what kind of certifications they have. These are all factors. If you're coming in straight off the street or straight from another organization, or you're a new person, and you've never done this before, you don't have any kind of IT background, and you're probably not gonna come out the gate making 130,000. Keep that in mind. But that said, if you can get your foot in the door, and you're making 80, you can very quickly climb to 130, 150. With the right certs, the right experience, put the right things on your resume. Yeah, you can very quickly. The hard thing is getting your foot in the door, right? So, and if you already have an IT background, it's perfect for you. He says, can I climb the corporate ladder as a GRC analyst, like later in the career when it hits 200 to get to 200,000? Is it possible? So yes. So a couple things. So 200,000 depends on what state and what kinds of, I can't sit here and promise you what numbers you're going to make, but I could tell you this: GRC is a really, really good way to get yourself in a position where you can get into a director position or a senior management type position, who make more money, right? It's way more competitive. A lot of times those positions are looking for you to have a master's degree or 25 years of experience or something stupid, some ridiculous number, right? That's not to say you can't with 6 years of experience or 4 or 5 years. I've known some people who've done that. But yes, to answer your question, to go from a GRC, that's one of the huge benefits that I don't hear a lot of people talking about with GRC, is that because of what you're dealing with, because you're having as a GRC person, and I'm just speaking from experience. I'm gonna keep it 100% real with you. Right? I'm speaking from my experience. I worked in the private sector. I worked in the federal sector. I did GRC in the military as an airman. From my experience, I'm just going to tell you what I've seen, what I've experienced, and some friends of mine, peers who've done this in and out of the military. One of the great things about GRC is that you have exposure to the technical side. You can go deeper into the technical side as is if you want. Last job I worked at, they were pushing us really hard to get in the cloud, really hard to get into more technical aspects of cloud. This one is really tool sets. There's a couple tool sets we use on a regular basis, Splunk, Axonius, and some others that the more deep I know about those, the more hands-on I am with them, the better for this job. So you can go the technical route. With GRC, you can go the other way too. So a lot of times, like right now, as a matter of fact, I'm being pulled into the management side. They want to make me more like a supervisor type role, and that leads straight into program manager type stuff, where I'm looking at not just my program, but I'm looking across 3 or 4 other programs, and I'm helping to manage several other people. Right now, that's what's happening to me. And then at my last job, it was the same thing. They were like, okay, look, you're good at this. We want you to supervise 2 other people underneath you. Can you handle that? Right. And then from there, it's like, okay, you have effectively managed these 2 or 3 people and helped them to get through. You are a task lead or whatever. Now we're going to level you up. You're good here. We're going to level you up again. And that's kind of how they do it in the last couple jobs. Right now it's happening. In the previous position at Verizon, it was the same thing. And then previously when I was working at NASA, it was the same thing. They had sometimes a slower progression depending on what's going on, or if you're a contractor or whatever. But it's the same thing. They put you in this role